Yes, humans eat their females, but not in the way the alien girl believed. Sci-Fi HFY Stories. Human cargo engineer Eli stepped off the shuttle and onto the bustling station platform, taking in the swirl of aliens moving in all directions. He had been assigned to the far edge of explored space, a trading hub where species from different worlds met and exchanged goods, knowledge, and rumors. Eli had expected the usual busy chaos of a space station, but the variety of alien life forms and their strange, expressive gestures still made him pause. He adjusted his pack and moved toward the administration sector, knowing he had several hours to settle in before his first shift. Meanwhile, a young alien named Luma observed him from a distance. She was new to the station herself, an intern working with languages and communications. Her kind had an unusual fascination with human culture, especially their reproductive practices, but there was much they did not understand. She had heard a fragment of human medical terminology transmitted poorly through the station AI. The words were strange and alarming: nutrient reclamation, cellular preservation, memory transference. The station's translation system garbled the sentences into something darker, something she was not prepared to hear. Humans, it seemed, ate their females. The thought made her shiver and glance nervously at every male human on the platform. Eli entered the station, unaware of the silent alarm that had been triggered in Luma's mind. He navigated through corridors crowded with species of all shapes and sizes, stopping briefly at the central medical wing to check on supplies. The station was always busy, but today it felt heavier somehow, as if tension clung to the walls. He greeted a medical technician, Rhea, and asked about the latest shipments of synthetic nutrients. Rhea smiled and began explaining the inventory when a sudden commotion erupted down the hallway. An alien crew from a neighboring system had overheard Luma talking quietly to another intern about what she believed humans did. Panic had spread like wildfire. Whispers grew into warnings and warnings into fear. By the time Eli reached the source of the noise, several alien officers had surrounded a group of humans. Keth, a stern-looking security officer, stepped forward, his armored form radiating authority. He demanded an explanation from Eli. Confused and concerned, Eli tried to explain that he had no idea what was happening, but every word he said only seemed to confirm the alien's suspicions. Luma moved closer, her large eyes fixed on Eli. Her translation device buzzed softly, interpreting the fragments of human speech, but her mind filled in the missing pieces with her own assumptions. When she saw a human woman collapse in the medical bay due to exhaustion from a long shift, Luma's fears escalated. She recorded the event secretly, convinced she was witnessing a ritual of consumption. Her pulse quickened, and she knew she had to alert the council. The doors to the medical bay sealed with a hiss behind her, leaving the humans trapped inside with the woman. Inside the bay, Eli and Rhea were busy stabilizing the patient. The medical procedure involved organ transplants and cellular regrowth, something entirely routine for humans but utterly foreign to aliens. Rhea spoke softly, explaining what she was doing, unaware that Luma was watching through a nearby observation port. Every action, the careful handling of tissues, the preparation of synthetic replacements, looked sinister through Luma's eyes. She imagined a horrifying scenario where humans harvested organs for unknown purposes. The suspense built as she continued recording, her hands trembling. Back on the platform, news of the incident spread quickly. Aliens whispered to each other, their mistrust growing. Some prepared defensive measures, assuming an attack or ritual was underway. Eli, still unaware of the rumors, focused on the woman's condition. He had seen countless medical emergencies in his career, but the tension in the station was unlike anything he had experienced. Every moment felt charged, every shadow suspicious. Luma finally approached the council chamber, where representatives of several alien species gathered. Her report was precise, though framed by her fear. She described human behavior as consumption, emphasizing the collapse of the woman in the medical bay and the use of strange devices that mimicked life. The council members listened, some skeptical, some clearly alarmed. A vote was taken, and a security team was dispatched to investigate. Eli's role in the event became a focus, and he was soon escorted to the council, confused and anxious. The human engineer tried to explain the procedure in simple terms, but his words were met with disbelief. The council's mistranslations only fueled the misunderstanding. He described organ donation, cellular preservation, and the ethical use of synthetic materials to prolong life. He spoke about how humans honor the dead and maintain the memory of those who pass, a process entirely misunderstood by aliens unfamiliar with human culture. Luma, despite seeing the explanation, still felt unease. Her interpretation was clouded by fear and imagination. Outside the council chamber, whispers escalated into alarm signals. The alien security officer Keth maintained a firm grip on his weapon, unsure if humans would resist or comply. Every movement of Eli and Rhea was scrutinized. Luma's report had created a wave of fear that threatened to escalate into conflict. She realized too late that her fear had consequences far beyond her intentions. The station was on edge, and any misstep could lead to disaster. Back in the medical bay, the woman was stabilized, but the human doctors knew their work was far from over. They moved quickly, employing techniques that seemed alien and frightening to outsiders. Eli explained to Rhea that this was standard practice, a way to honor life and extend it whenever possible. He did not yet know that his words were being twisted outside the bay, fueling panic. As Luma watched from her concealed position, the suspense reached its peak. The humans, every movement seemed deliberate and menacing. The council prepared to take action, and the security team readied themselves for confrontation. Eli, unaware of the growing tension, focused solely on the patient, adjusting instruments and monitoring vital signs. The medical bay doors sealed completely, separating him from the outside world and leaving only the faint hum of machinery as accompaniment. Outside, the aliens debated the appropriate response. Some suggested containment, others advocated for immediate investigation, and a few were ready to strike. Luma's translation errors amplified every word of human speech into a perceived threat. Her fear-driven observations had spread through the station like fire. The potential for violence grew with each passing minute. The council struggled to maintain order, knowing that misunderstanding could spark an interspecies conflict. Inside the sealed bay, Eli and Rhea worked in synchronized efficiency. Every procedure was precise, every gesture deliberate. They did not speak of fear or anger, only of care and stabilization. The patient's vitals slowly improved under their attention. Yet to Luma and the outside observers, the scene appeared ominous, a ritual of unknown consequence. Her pulse quickened as she recorded, realizing that her interpretation could determine the fate of everyone in the vicinity. As the council deliberated, Eli's voice echoed faintly through the chamber's translation system. He described the human practice of honoring life, of preserving memory, and of sharing resources to help others survive. Slowly, some council members began to question their initial assumptions. Perhaps humans were not monsters, but beings capable of remarkable compassion. The tension remained high, however, as Luma's report continued to influence perception. The first part of the unfolding crisis ended with uncertainty. The medical bay doors remained sealed, the patient's condition stabilized, and the council faced a dilemma: act on fear or trust the explanation of an alien species observing humans for the first time. Luma, torn between fear and curiosity, stepped back and watched. realizing that the truth might be far stranger and more admirable than she had imagined. Yet the shadow of misunderstanding still hung over the station, promising that the next moments would be critical, suspenseful, and potentially transformative for all involved. The station remained tense as the council debated the human's fate. Outside the sealed medical bay, aliens whispered among themselves, eyes darting to the armored officers and the doors that concealed Eli, Rhea, and the patient. Luma watched from the observation deck, her hands gripping the railing. Her fear had sparked chaos, and she now wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. The word she had misunderstood, the phrase she had misheard, now threatened to start an interspecies conflict. Eli, still inside the bay, was unaware of the discussions outside. His attention remained on the patient, carefully adjusting the flow of synthetic nutrients and monitoring vitals. Rhea assisted, handing him instruments with practiced efficiency. The patient's skin slowly regained color, the irregular heartbeat steadying. To humans, this was routine, but to an alien observing through a port, the activity seemed ritualistic, almost sacrificial. Suddenly, alarms echoed throughout the station. Keth's voice cut through the commotion, ordering humans to come forward and submit to questioning. Eli stepped out cautiously, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. His calm, methodical movements contrasted sharply with the anxious energy radiating from the surrounding aliens. Luma's eyes widened as she saw him approach. Her recording device captured every gesture, reinforcing her belief that the humans were performing some dangerous custom. The council had convened a larger assembly, including representatives from multiple species. They wanted to understand exactly what humans did in their medical practices. Keth guided Eli and Rhea into the chamber, where dozens of alien delegates waited. Murmurs filled the room as eyes followed their every move. Eli tried to speak to explain, but every word seemed distorted by translation errors. Some delegates leaned in, attempting to interpret the meaning, while others reacted with suspicion and alarm. Rhea took a step forward, her voice calm and deliberate. She explained the human process of organ donation, cellular preservation, and the creation of synthetic tissues. She spoke of human ethics, of the desire to extend life and honor the memory of those who could not survive. Some delegates nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Others, however, exchanged wary glances, unwilling to abandon their fear-based assumptions. Meanwhile, Luma's heart pounded. She wanted to trust Eli and Rhea, but the images she had recorded were vivid in her mind. Humans handling body parts, adjusting instruments, and using strange machines. It all seemed so unnatural. Her species, culture interpreted these actions through a lens of predation and consumption. She realized that the misunderstanding was not just hers. It had spread among the alien community, creating tension and mistrust. Outside the chamber, the security forces remained on high alert. Keth moved between them, ensuring that no sudden moves could escalate into violence. He did not fully understand human behavior, and neither did many of the delegates. The fear of the unknown drove them, and that fear could erupt at any moment. Eli noticed their guarded posture and spoke slowly, explaining that humans respected life and that their procedures were meant to save, not harm. Some delegates relaxed slightly, but the majority remained skeptical. As the council continued deliberation, a sudden emergency occurred. A section of the station's oxygen grid malfunctioned, causing alarms to blare and red lights to flash. A small alien child had been exploring the area and was trapped behind a collapsing corridor. Panic rippled through the crowd. Keth barked orders, but the path to the child was dangerous, filled with exposed machinery and unstable structures. Without hesitation, Eli and Rhea sprang into action. They ran toward the danger zone, ignoring the chaotic alarms. Luma watched in disbelief as the humans navigated the collapsing corridor with precision and determination. They lifted debris, stabilized the environment, and reached the child in time. The child was frightened but unharmed. The humans' actions defied Luma's previous assumptions. They risked their own lives for a species that had only feared them. The suspense and tension reached a new peak as observers realized the bravery and compassion of the humans. After the rescue, Eli and Rhea returned with the child to the council chamber. The room was silent, filled with stunned delegates. Even Keth lowered his guard, acknowledging the humans' courage. Luma could not believe what she had witnessed. She had recorded everything, but the footage now told a different story than she had imagined. Humans did not consume or harm. They gave of themselves freely, even to those who feared them. The council debated late into the station cycle. Delegates argued about whether their initial assumptions were justified, whether fear had clouded judgment, and whether humans were truly as dangerous as rumored. Eli and Rhea remained calm, answering questions and clarifying procedures. Slowly, understanding began to replace suspicion. The story Luma had built in her mind started to unravel, revealing a truth far more remarkable than the grim rumor she had believed. In private moments, Luma approached Eli, still hesitant but curious. She asked why humans risked themselves for others, why they cared for strangers in such extreme ways. Eli smiled gently and explained that human society valued life and compassion above fear. They shared their resources and knowledge to preserve and honor life. To humans, helping others was not extraordinary, it was essential. Luma listened, absorbing every word, realizing that the misunderstanding had been rooted in differences of culture and perception. Outside the council chamber, tension eased gradually. Delegates began to question their own fears and prejudices. Security forces stood down, and the station's atmosphere shifted from panic to cautious reflection. Luma released a deep breath she had been holding for cycles, her understanding growing with each moment. The rumor she had spread had caused chaos, but now she began to see the humans' true nature. Eli and Rhea returned to the medical bay to check on the patient they had stabilized earlier. The woman was recovering well, her vitals steady and her strength returning. The humans worked quietly, without expectation of praise, their actions speaking louder than any words. Luma observed from a distance, feeling a mix of awe and remorse. Her fear had been powerful, but now it was replaced by a sense of respect and wonder. As the station continued its operations, the events of the day remained in the minds of all who had witnessed them. Humans were no longer seen as potential predators, but as a species capable of remarkable courage and generosity. The council knew that misunderstandings could arise in the future, but the story of the humans, bravery and compassion would remain a lesson for all. Luma resolved to correct her initial report and share the truth with her peers, ensuring that the fear she had spread would not define human-alien relations. The day ended with the station returning to its normal rhythm, though the memory of tension and suspense lingered. Eli and Rhea continued their duties with quiet determination, unaware of the profound impact their actions had on the alien council and on Luma's understanding of humanity. Suspense gave way to reflection, fear to respect, and misunderstanding to admiration. The humans had not only survived the misunderstanding, but had shown the galaxy the depth of their empathy, the strength of their courage, and the extraordinary value they placed on life. The council chamber remained quiet after the rescue, but tension still lingered in the air. Some delegates were still skeptical, unable to fully trust what they had seen. Luma, however, felt a shift inside herself. The human's actions had contradicted everything she had believed, and the recordings she had taken now seemed misleading. She wondered how fear had twisted such ordinary human behavior into something terrifying. Eli and Rhea were summoned to explain the human practices in greater detail. They entered the chamber calmly, their presence commanding attention without arrogance. Eli began by describing human customs surrounding life and death. He spoke of families who share nutrients through organ donation, of medical technologies that preserve life, and of ways humans honor those who pass. Rhea added examples, detailing the ethical considerations, the consent protocols, and the careful balance humans maintain when extending or preserving life. The delegates listened with growing curiosity. Many of them had never considered the importance of consent and shared responsibility in another species' culture. The room buzzed softly with questions and whispered translations. Luma watched closely, still cautious but increasingly convinced that humans were far different from the fearful rumors she had believed. Eli explained that human medicine often appeared strange to outsiders because it involves intimate handling of bodies and complex technology. To humans, these acts were normal and necessary, but aliens who lacked the context could misinterpret them easily. He described how humans do not harm one another for ritualistic purposes, and that their society values cooperation, empathy, and risk-sharing. Some delegates began to nod, recognizing the logic. Others remained hesitant, clinging to their earlier fear. A few asked pointed questions, probing whether humans might secretly engage in harmful practices that were hidden from outsiders. Eli answered honestly, acknowledging that humans were capable of error, but emphasizing that their ethics and societal rules strongly discouraged any harm to others. Luma felt her mind opening to new understanding. She realized that her initial interpretation was based on fear, imagination, and incomplete information. She had projected alien fears onto human behavior, creating a narrative that had escalated tension throughout the station. The realization was humbling and slightly frightening. She had nearly caused a catastrophe, all from misunderstanding. The council decided to allow humans to demonstrate a common practice to clarify further. Eli and Rhea led the delegates to a controlled medical environment, showing organ donation simulations, synthetic tissue regeneration, and patient care routines. The observers saw humans working together efficiently, prioritizing life over fear, comfort over suspicion. Every gesture, every careful movement highlighted the humans' respect for others. Luma watched closely, noting how humans collaborated without coercion, how they prioritized the safety of patients, and how even strangers received care. The realization hit her fully. Humans did not consume or harm. They gave freely of themselves, often risking their own safety to protect others. Her species' previous assumption that humans were predators crumbled in light of direct observation. As the demonstration continued, a minor accident occurred. A synthetic tissue sample malfunctioned, releasing a small cloud of biostabilizer. Eli and Rhea reacted immediately, securing the material and ensuring no harm came to the delegates. The quick, precise response impressed everyone. Delegates murmured among themselves, recognizing that humans were not only compassionate but also disciplined and highly skilled. After the demonstration, the council reconvened to discuss the implications. Delegates debated how the initial misunderstanding had spread and why fear had colored perception so heavily. Luma presented her corrected analysis, explaining that humans' actions were misunderstood due to cultural and physiological differences. She acknowledged her part in spreading the alarm and apologized for the confusion. Her honesty and the humans' transparency began to reshape the narrative. Some delegates, still wary, suggested monitoring human practices over time to ensure nothing harmful was hidden. Others argued that the humans had already demonstrated the utmost integrity and compassion, and no further observation was needed. The discussions were lengthy but gradually shifted from suspicion to cautious respect. Meanwhile, Eli and Rhea returned to the medical bay to continue their work. They stabilized the remaining patients, maintained records, and ensured that every procedure followed strict ethical standards. Their actions reinforced the lesson that humans valued life deeply, and that their medical practices, while complex, were aimed solely at preservation and care. Luma followed them at a distance, observing quietly. She recorded notes and reflected on her own assumptions. Fear and misunderstanding had nearly escalated into conflict, yet humans had shown patience, clarity, and courage. She realized that humans' willingness to help and protect others, even those who feared them, was extraordinary. The suspense of the earlier events began to fade, replaced by curiosity and admiration. The council members, who had once viewed humans with suspicion, now considered the broader implications of their behavior. Humans had shown that even when misunderstood, they acted with courage and morality, demonstrating values that other species could aspire to. Eli, sensing the shift in perception, spoke to the delegates about collaboration and mutual understanding. He emphasized that fear often arises from lack of knowledge, and that sharing culture, practices, and reasoning can bridge gaps between species. Rhea added that humans believed in learning from others, valuing life not only of their own species, but of all sentient beings they encountered. Luma realized that the earlier rumor of humans eating their females had been entirely false. The truth was far more powerful. Humans gave of themselves freely, prioritized life, and extended compassion beyond their immediate kin. She felt a deep respect for the species she had once feared. Her recordings now told a different story, one that highlighted human bravery, empathy, and wisdom. As the station cycle ended, the council formally acknowledged the humans' conduct. They agreed to revise communications protocols to prevent similar misunderstandings in the future. Luma pledged to educate her peers about human culture accurately, ensuring that fear would not overshadow observation again. Eli and Rhea returned to their routine duties, their presence on the station now marked by respect and cautious admiration. The humans' behavior had set a standard, showing that courage, ethical action, and compassion could influence perceptions across species. Luma reflected on the events of the day, recognizing that humans had not only survived a misunderstanding, but had taught valuable lessons about morality, patience, and generosity. The suspense, tension, and fear of earlier cycles were replaced by a sense of hope and understanding. Luma knew that the events would be remembered, and that future interactions between humans and other species would be guided by the lessons learned. Humans had shown that they could inspire trust and admiration even in the most skeptical observers, simply by acting with integrity and compassion. By the end of the cycle, Luma had fully corrected her initial report. The humans were no longer perceived as dangerous predators, but as a species capable of extraordinary courage, empathy, and generosity. The station's atmosphere shifted from tension to respect, and the understanding of human behavior deepened among all species present. In private, Luma approached Eli once more. She expressed her gratitude and admitted her mistake. Eli smiled, assuring her that misunderstandings were natural and that learning came from observation and dialogue. She realized that the humans' willingness to forgive, teach, and protect had demonstrated values far beyond fear or rumor. The day ended quietly, but the lessons endured. Humans had shown that courage, empathy, and integrity could overcome fear and misunderstanding, leaving a lasting impression on all who had witnessed their actions. Luma looked toward the stars, understanding that humanity's example would echo far beyond the station, shaping interspecies relations and inspiring trust where fear had once dominated. The station had quieted after the council's meetings and demonstrations, but the calm was temporary. An unexpected warning blared across the communication grid. A section of the station's outer modules had sustained damage from a meteor strike. The alarms were loud and urgent, red lights flashing in every corridor. Delegates and station personnel rushed to safety, but one of the alien children, curious and adventurous, had wandered into the damaged area. Panic spread instantly. Eli and Rhea were already nearby in the medical bay, reviewing patient reports. Hearing the alarm, they did not hesitate. Without asking for permission or concern for their own safety, they ran toward the danger. Luma, watching from the observation deck, froze. Her recordings now captured humans moving deliberately into an area that could easily have been lethal. The suspense and tension escalated as she realized what they were doing. The outer module was partially collapsed. Sparks flew from broken panels, and the oxygen levels had dropped in localized areas. Debris blocked corridors, and alarms blared in a constant shriek. The child could be seen, trapped near a crumpled maintenance unit, crying and calling for help. Eli quickly assessed the situation, signaling Rhea to follow his lead. The two moved carefully, coordinating every step, dodging falling debris, and stabilizing weakened structures where possible. Meanwhile, alien security forces were hesitant to enter. Keth gave orders but held back, unsure of the humans' intentions and wary of their rumored practices. Luma's eyes widened as she saw Eli lift a heavy panel, clearing the child's path. They moved swiftly but cautiously, never endangering the young one further. The suspense reached its peak when a falling support beam shifted precariously, threatening to crush them all. Eli reacted instantly, gripping the beam and holding it steady while Rhea guided the child to safety. Their muscles strained, sweat dripping, yet they never wavered. Luma's mind raced. She had expected horror, a confirmation of her fear, but instead she witnessed humans risking their lives to protect someone they did not know, someone who had feared them moments ago. The scene contradicted everything she thought she knew about the species. Finally, they emerged from the damaged module, carrying the child safely back to the central corridor. The other delegates and station personnel gasped, their assumptions challenged in a single act. Keth lowered his weapon, a rare expression of respect appearing on his face. The council, previously divided and skeptical, now had tangible proof of human courage and compassion. Luma recorded every detail, but this time without fear. She realized the humans' bravery was genuine, not ritualistic or deceptive. Their actions were simple in motivation: protect life at all costs. She reflected on how her misunderstanding had almost caused unnecessary conflict. She felt both relief and admiration. Back in the council chamber, Eli and Rhea explained their actions. They spoke about humans' instinct to help, to risk themselves when others are in danger, regardless of species. The delegates listened intently, some nodding slowly, others whispering among themselves. The demonstration of courage and ethical action had shifted the perception of humans across the station. Some delegates asked questions, wanting to understand the limits of human ethics. Eli answered with honesty, detailing the protocols humans followed when performing risky tasks or medical procedures. He emphasized that humans valued life and choice, and their willingness to risk themselves for others was consistent across all interactions. The discussion moved to Luma's initial report. She admitted her misunderstanding and explained how fear and incomplete translation had led to the false rumor. The delegates were impressed by her honesty and willingness to correct the record. It became a moment of reflection on the importance of accurate observation and communication, especially when dealing with species that are unfamiliar or fundamentally different. The station gradually returned to normal, though the events left a lasting impression. Humans had proven themselves not only capable but morally strong, willing to protect others even under extreme risk. Luma's corrected report became a case study for future training, emphasizing the dangers of fear-driven assumptions. Eli and Rhea resumed their work in the medical bay, attending to patients and ensuring that all procedures continued with the utmost care. Their example inspired some delegates to consider adopting similar protocols and ethical standards in their own societies. The human's presence now carried a sense of trust, tempered with respect and acknowledgement of their courage. Luma approached Eli privately, her voice quiet but earnest. She admitted how wrong she had been and expressed gratitude for the lesson in humanity. Eli smiled, telling her that understanding takes time and that fear often distorts perception. Luma reflected on how humans had not only saved a life, but had demonstrated the values that defined their species. The suspense and tension of the day had transformed into admiration and reflection. The council noted that future misunderstandings could be prevented by clear communication and direct observation. Humans, through their actions, had become an example of courage, ethics, and empathy, inspiring even those who had once feared them. As the station lights dimmed for the cycle change, the delegates reviewed the day's events, Luma taking meticulous notes. The humans, bravery and ethical conduct had turned what could have been conflict into a lesson in moral integrity and interspecies respect. Eli and Rhea, unaware of the full impact, continued their work, showing that humans acted not for praise or fear, but because compassion and courage were integral to their nature. The day concluded with a sense of calm and understanding. Humans had demonstrated that courage, ethical behavior, and empathy could bridge gaps of fear and misunderstanding. Luma reflected that rumors could only spread so far before truth and action reveal the deeper nature of a species. Humans had not only survived suspicion, but had proven the remarkable depth of their humanity, leaving an enduring lesson for all species on the station. The station had returned to a cautious calm, yet the memory of the past cycle's events lingered in the minds of all present. Humans had acted with extraordinary courage and compassion, demonstrating a level of ethics and bravery that other species had rarely seen firsthand. Luma reflected on everything she had witnessed, realizing how powerful and dangerous misunderstanding could be. Her initial fear, based on a mistranslation, had almost caused conflict. Now she understood that humans were not what she had imagined. They were far more admirable. Eli and Rhea continued their duties in the medical bay, tending to patients and maintaining the advanced systems that preserved life. Their work was routine to them, yet it had taken on greater significance after the events that had unfolded. Every action they performed, every decision they made, reinforced the lesson that humans valued life above all else, and their dedication inspired respect and admiration from observers across the station. Luma presented her corrected report to the council. She described in detail the humans' actions, their medical practices, and their extraordinary willingness to risk themselves for others. She emphasized the ethical and moral considerations that guided human behavior, and she highlighted the courage that had been displayed during the emergency rescue. The council listened carefully, taking note of every point. Some delegates took meticulous notes, intending to share the report across other systems, ensuring that the reputation of humans would be properly understood in the future. The council formally recognized the humans' bravery and ethical conduct. They revised protocols for interspecies observation and reporting, emphasizing the importance of direct observation and cultural understanding. Luma's corrected analysis became part of the station's training program, serving as a lesson for all who would encounter humans in the future. Her experience showed that fear and rumor could lead to misjudgment, and that understanding and observation were essential to peaceful coexistence. The humans themselves remained humble. Eli and Rhea never sought praise, focusing instead on their work and the well-being of those around them. Their actions had left a lasting impression, but to them, it was simply the way humans behaved. They helped because it was the right thing to do, not for recognition or reward. Their humility further impressed the council and delegates, highlighting that human morality was not performative but genuine. Luma approached Eli once more, her expression serious but grateful. She admitted her mistake and thanked him for the lessons he and Rhea had provided. Eli smiled, explaining that misunderstandings happen when different cultures and languages interact, and that patience and observation were the best tools for learning. Luma realized that humans had not only saved lives, but had also taught a profound lesson in ethics, courage, and empathy. Across the station, whispers of admiration spread. Delegates shared stories of the rescue, of the medical demonstrations, and of the humans' calm yet decisive actions. They spoke of a species that, despite being misunderstood, acted consistently with bravery and compassion. The rumor of humans eating their females had been replaced by a new narrative. Humans were willing to sacrifice for others, to act selflessly, and to uphold ethical standards in every circumstance. The suspense that had gripped the station earlier in the cycle now transformed into respect and reflection. The aliens who had once feared humans began to see them as a model for courage and morality. Luma recorded her final notes, ensuring that future generations would understand the true nature of humans. She knew that the story would travel beyond the station, shaping perceptions and interactions in ways that fear and rumor never could. Eli and Rhea returned to the medical bay to check on the last of the patients. The woman who had collapsed earlier was now stable and recovering well. Every procedure was performed with care, attention, and precision. Luma watched from a distance, reflecting on how human actions, though ordinary to them, had demonstrated extraordinary values to outsiders. Courage, compassion, and ethics had shown through every decision, proving that humans could act with integrity even when misunderstood. The council formally closed the case, acknowledging the humans' conduct and issuing a statement to all visiting species. Humans were to be trusted, observed with openness, and respected for their courage and moral code. The statement emphasized that future misunderstandings could be prevented by careful observation, direct communication, and cultural education. Humans, it was now clear, could inspire trust and admiration even among the most skeptical species. Luma finally allowed herself to relax. She had learned a valuable lesson. Fear could cloud judgment, but observation and understanding could reveal the truth. Humans were not predators as the rumor had suggested. They were generous, courageous, and ethical. The lesson was powerful, and Luma felt honored to have witnessed it firsthand. Eli and Rhea continued their work quietly, unaware of the full impact of their actions. They had simply acted according to their values, demonstrating courage, compassion, and moral integrity. Their actions had reshaped perceptions, corrected misunderstandings, and left a lasting legacy across the station. The story of humans once feared had transformed into one of admiration and inspiration. Other species would remember this day not for rumor or fear, but for the courage, ethics, and generosity that humans had displayed. Luma's recordings, council reports, and first-hand accounts ensured that the lesson would endure, shaping future interspecies relations and teaching that even when misunderstood, humans act with integrity and heart. As the station settled into its normal rhythm, the human's example remained a beacon. Courage, ethics, and empathy had proven more powerful than fear and rumor. Luma looked out at the stars, understanding that humanity's actions would echo far beyond the station, guiding others toward understanding, respect, and cooperation. The truth of human nature had been revealed. They gave freely, protected life without hesitation, and acted with a moral clarity that inspired all who witnessed it. The galaxy would remember not the fear, but the bravery and the compassion of humans.